This is the Marriage Podcast, and I'm your host, Alexandra Stockwell. I'm a physician turned relationship and intimacy expert, and I specialize in showing couples how to have incredible, passionate relationships. I myself have been married for 25 years. My husband and I have 4 children and full professional lives, and we've created an amazing relationship. If you want to deepen your understanding of your own relationship and learn to access new heights of emotional, sensual, and erotic intimacy, you're in the right place because I will show you how. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, this is Alexandra, and I'm going to be talking about how to connect with your spouse while raising young children. This is something that so many people speak with me about, couples who have newborns all the way up to 12 years old. Of course, connecting intimately with your partner is a challenge. Well, when children are older than that, out of the house, when you never have children. But today's episode, I'm really focusing on the particular challenges in connecting intimately with your spouse when your children are young. And that could mean up to 5 years old, that could mean up to 10 years old. It really depends. It's going to be different in each family, how much attention the children need up until any given age. So let me just say that the bottom line on this topic is that you don't actually need to make more time. It's how you use the time you have, how you make the time you have contribute to connection, gratification, and really loving one another and expressing that. But I'm going to give you a little bit more than the bottom line. So the thing is that right now, my clients, I have clients with a 6-month-old. I have people in my programs with children who are 4, 6, 7, 9. And the refrain from all of them is that we don't have time together. What does that mean? It means that children just soak up the attention when they're present. And when they're asleep, there's so many other things to do. And add in the pandemic, emerging from the pandemic, all of the particular stresses and intensities of regular life these days, plus what children need in their bodies and souls and energetically. There's actually this incredible statistic that the average couple spends less than 4 minutes a day talking about anything other than children and logistics. And so the children just suck our attention, either because they're present and they need it, or because we're thinking about what they need and making sure daycare pickup is coordinated and that there is enough food in the refrigerator to pack lunches and so on and so forth. Anyone in this situation knows exactly what I'm talking about, where, yes, each family has its own particular flavor, but there is a universal theme here. And it's this really crazy experience because you meet your partner, you get together, maybe you get married, maybe you don't, but either way, it's the two of you living in your home. And if you're living in a community home, it's the two of you with your attention on one another. And then it's the most amazing thing. You welcome a baby or 2 or 3, or in my case, 4 into the mix. And it is this wonderful time for the family, but it's not a wonderful time for the couple. And attention goes in other places. One of the things that I talk about is this concept that maybe you've already heard before about distinguishing between things which are urgent and things which are important. And a crying baby is urgent, and a need to put more groceries in the refrigerator is urgent, and getting the laundry done is urgent, and falling asleep because you're exhausted is urgent. But sitting together and making out, that's not driven by a sense of urgency, or taking the time to just let everything go and sink into one another's bodies. That's never going to be something urgent, though it is very important. So the first thing is to really think in your life, what is important and what is urgent that you could plan for or attend to or address while it's important so it doesn't become urgent, and what just has to be urgent during this phase, like a crying baby who's hungry. or diapers needing to be changed. But even with a lot of urgency and a focus on what's important, there still are so many opportunities that often are just not used to create connection. And one of the blocks to that is the culture of many marriages is such that people, or one anyway, is concerned that if they start touching one another or start feeling romantic or start kissing, that that's going to mean that it will be interpreted as a kind of automatic yes to full on intercourse. So the first thing to establish is that you want to connect. You want to be affectionate, but you don't want that to imply a lot more, because maybe you have the energy to really enjoy a delicious kiss and to be hugging one another in a very affectionate, romantic way, but you hold back for fear that that's going to sign you up for more than you actually want. So the first thing really is to just start talking with your partner and reestablish the culture so that none of those assumptions are made anymore. And when that is the case, then you can both really be nourished by non-sexual physical touch. It is one of the most amazing ways to sustain a connection when one or both people are really exhausted or just not available for sex for any reason. The oxytocin levels rise, that's the bonding hormone, and emotional intimacy is nourished through non-sexual physical touch. So what do I mean by non-sexual physical touch? I mean full-on body hugs, not just the shoulder-to-shoulder connection, but really letting your bodies connect with one another, or spooning in bed, or really leaning into one another while you're watching TV. Of course, non-sexual physical touch can mean holding hands, but I'm just inviting you to let it be more intimate without necessarily becoming sexual. If you both want it to, great, but you don't want to have that be the assumption, because it will limit how much affection and non-sexual physical touch is happening in your relationship. If you're a man or any partner, honestly, who wants to connect with a woman who has just given birth in the last year or two, offer to massage her. And when you do, don't think of it as a task. Don't think of it as something that is going to be a tit for tat. If you do this, then she'll do that. Just know that you are making a contribution to nourish your connection. And that's good for your family. Like when you think of the idea of providing for your family, let it include foot massages and just being still with one another for a moment. So I'm saying all of this to invite you to really expand the different routes you have for connection and creating emotional intimacy. Because sure, it's amazing to have 30 minutes, 2 hours in bed together. Yes, that is beautiful. And it's also wonderful to have time to go on a date on a regular basis. And it is wonderful to be able to sit and talk together in the evening for 3 hours. But if you don't have those things and your life isn't organized for that to be possible right now, don't let that hold back how connected you feel with your partner. Now, I am saying all of this because my husband and I took quite a while to decide whether or not to have our fourth child. And one of the reasons, there are multiple reasons we took some time to decide, but one of them was that after having our first, second, and then third children, we had reconnected in the bedroom in a beautiful way. And we didn't want to necessarily throw that away, because basically 100% of the time when a new baby arrives, there is an interruption in the erotic connection between the parents. And that connection can be reinvigorated, recovered after 2 weeks, after 2 months, after 2 years. Some couples never recover it. But I was determined when we did decide to have our fourth child that we were not going to have a dip in our erotic connection when he was born. And I read some books, I used my imagination, I did all kinds of things, and we found our way to really let the erotic juices flow in my third trimester and just carried that over into his first 3 months of life and beyond. And so I don't actually recall how long until we had penetrative sex, but I know we never experienced a dip in the erotic connection, which of course made it much easier to dial it up and enjoy ourselves when he was a little baby. So I guess what I want you to know is that you don't need a lot of time and you don't need fancy things like new lingerie or a weekend away, just the two of us, in order to really stoke the erotic fire in your relationship. So how does this work? It means that you allow yourself to drop into your sexy. Let yourself feel like a woman. Let yourself feel like a man, and not only feel like you're in a parenting role or a household manager role. That is really the most important thing. And you can be holding your baby and still feel like a sexy woman. And you can be cooking dinner and still feel like a sexy woman. It's a matter of using your attention to tap into that part of yourself while you still fulfill your mundane tasks and regular responsibilities. And when just one of you does that, it becomes an invitation for the other one too. So you don't need to make a plan. You just start enjoying that you're a woman as well as a mother and whatever you do professionally. If you want to put some lipstick on and brush your hair, great, but it's not necessary. What's necessary is that you enjoy your mind and tap into your heart and all the way down into your genitals too. Look at your partner and let yourself feel attracted to this incredible person that you are with in this life. And from there, you're quite likely to have different conversation topics and to smile and to let things feel flirtatious. And when one of you leaves for work in the morning, rather than just leaving or saying, bye, honey, or even giving a peck on the cheek, take the extra breath and kiss on the lips in a way that feels good. Because when you come home from work and your children run to jump into your arms, they're letting you know how much they love you. And you can do something which does not necessarily involve running or jumping. It involves attention. And I can tell you that when my husband and I separate in the morning, when he leaves for work, because I work from home, and he kisses me on the way out the door, and I actually take a moment to receive and be present as his lips touch mine. It's a very different thing for him to come home that night. It's like we're adding pulses to the underground erotic connection, even as above ground, we're focused on all of our many personal and professional responsibilities. So there isn't a simple step-by-step formula, obviously. And you'll notice that I haven't even really talked much about sex. But what I have wanted to do is convey the milieu, convey the culture that you absolutely can have with your partner while you are raising young children. And in that culture, it's not so significant what happens one day versus another. It's that in general, you're oriented to nourishing your connection with attention. And, well, it's the kind of thing you're never going to regret. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Marriage Podcast. Please rate and review the show on iTunes. It really makes a difference. And if you have a question or a comment, reach out to me via my website at alexandrastockwell.com.